What do you want to cover right now? First thing, just questions.
Side pressure.
Okay, we'll get to it. We'll do a whole section on side pressure. What else? Tendon health. Beginners, your elbows always hurt. They always hurt at the beginning. You have to do the JM presses. Okay? Does everybody know what the JM presses are? No. Where's you know what the JM presses are, right, Craig?
Yes, sir.
All right, can you explain it to these folks?
I'm not so much martial.
Right. So normally, if you're benching, you're coming down to the arm with your elbows out, and then your skull crushers and your tricep extensions are up here. A JM press, you grab the bar, you'll false grip it, so you put the thumbs on the same size as your fingers, and you bring the bar down below your chin. But the point is, you bring it down until the arm stops, so your forearms and your biceps touch. So different people can go different depths. You know, beginners can go way down. That's all the farther I can go. What that does is it puts both sides of your elbow in tension. So it actually stretches those tendons, and then you just press it back up. Okay? And that's the one exercise I found which will actually strengthen the tendons, and so then they'll eventually stop hurting, because where all that elbow pain comes from, and beginners get it worse than anybody else, is they spend a lot of time losing during their table time. So if you're locked up and somebody pulls you open, that puts those tears in those tendons, and that's what hurts. Once you start getting better and you start winning more and more, you're not getting ripped open all the time, so your elbows stop hurting. But those JM presses will definitely strengthen the tendons. And you can go on YouTube. The guy who invented them still, I mean, he's like in his 30s or something. He explains how to do it in a video. Well, I recommend making a slight variations to it. So the normal JM press is a normal, like, medium shoulder width grip. But when you do them, take an illegal wide grip, do a set wide, then a set medium, and then a set close. Okay? Because weightlifters and stuff, when they bench, they only got to move that bar in their one groove. But since we're arm wrestlers, people are pulling you in different angles, so you want to have that strength over the whole width of the table. Okay? So when you do them, superset, wide grip, medium grip, narrow grip, wide grip, medium grip, narrow grip. The other thing that will help on those is if you don't put all the weight on the bar, but hang some of the weight either on straps or bands so that the bar is wobbly while you're trying to bench it. That forces you to control it, and that'll work both the shoulders and all the stabilization muscles. Start doing them, you will notice within weeks that your elbows feel better and healthier, and after a month or two, your elbow pain should be gone. You really shouldn't have it anymore. I've been doing them for about a year, but this year for sure, I've had several of these type events where I've arm wrestled like 7 and 8 hours at a time, and my elbows no longer hurt. My shoulders are starting to get sore now, so I've actually moved the weak point of my arm wrestling out of my elbow and into my shoulder.
What's the sets and reps for?
I started doing sets of 20 and 30. I'm now doing sets of like 8, and it's just faster, and I haven't really noticed a difference. I like to push everything. If you're not doing 1 rep maxes, I like everything in the 6 to 8 rep range. So it's about 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max, just because it forces you to use more of the muscles in your body. And then when you're doing sets up to 8 or so, you're kind of working to failure anyways. But that alone is worth any money you spent to get here, because it will make that elbow pain go away. Okay, so definitely train the JM presses and train your shoulders. You can train your shoulders last. You don't have to train them hard. Don't do anything with a barbell behind your neck, but train your shoulders with front raises, side raises, and rear raises. Bicep tears, elbow pain, and shoulders are the biggest injuries that arm wrestlers get. And almost everybody knows somebody who's either tore their bicep off, or they got a labrum problem or a shoulder problem. So train your shoulders, make them strong, do these JM presses, and that pain will go away. And you'll be able to train side pressure and arm wrestle a lot harder and a lot stronger, because you're not babying off that elbow pain.
Thanks, Todd.
Sure. Anything else? Grip training. Captains of Crush grippers. Do we use them?
Got a few with you?
Yes. No, don't train with the grippers.
I got it all, damn it.
Why don't we use grippers in our training? And I've got all of them. When I started out, I bought the whole set. I bought all the training all the training attachments, everything else. Why stronger when your hand's back? When you're squeezing that gripper, it pulls your hand back. We got to get conditioned to where we don't need so much finger crushing strength. We need that ability to cup that wrist in. Grippers actually roll your hand back the other way. And come up here a second. What we don't want is we don't want that finger crushing strength on a grip, because if I'm really squeezing with my fingers, that makes me very susceptible to a top roll, because he now can load it right into my hand, right into the fingertips. Your grip should be relaxed on the fingers, but you want the ability to either cup that wrist or rise or pronate. All right, grippers condition you the other way. They condition you to kink your knuckles back and get all that power to your fingertips. So don't do the grippers. I don't know what that machine's called, but it's like where you squeeze it. It's got a little
Weight on the bottom,
yeah,
squeeze it up.
and you squeeze it up. Yeah, for years I did all of them. That was old school arm wrestling. Yeah, don't do that anymore. So that's the second time you got your money back. Okay, do your JM presses. Don't do the gripper work. Another thing, that wrist curls, isolated wrist curls. We do lots of those, right? Stop doing those too. Okay. All right. And I did. I'm going to save you guys so much time. Isolating your wrist and doing the wrist curls either off your knee or off a bench, or reversing them. Those movements are valuable, but when you're arm wrestling, it's an arm wrestling. Come up here a second. An arm wrestling. Let's turn the table. When you're arm wrestling, you're not arm wrestling wrist curling here, right? You're locking your arm. You're pulling back with your back, your legs. All right. So you get to use all the big muscle groups when you're arm wrestling. So train your wrists that way. Train your wrists as much as you can with back pressure applied to it. So if you're going to do wrist curls, if you do it on a cable machine, all right, don't curl it straight up and down. Curl it where you're pulling back, so it forces you to engage your shoulders and your back when you do those wrist curls. Even if you're doing underhand wrist curls, do it with some sort of back pressure, because when I want a wrist curl, I want to come back this way. I'm not just wrist curling with my elbow static. Okay. Reverse wrist curls are as important as the forward wrist curls. Okay. If you're a top roller, you top roll with that reverse wrist curl motion. And if you're being top rolled and trying to stop it, it requires that reverse wrist curl motion to fight a top roller. So do your wrist curls heavy. Again, reps in the 6 to 10 range. Heavy weights, always add heavy weights to it. Buy all the different arm wrestling handles they sell. You'll use all of them. The only handles I've seen that I don't like, and I got a homemade set, is they're 2x4s. They're ones that hold your fingers completely flat. When I used those, I don't know if it was a coincidence or if it actually caused it, but it was causing my hands to be sore. Or I think it was just pushing those fingers hard, and I was actually getting some pain in the back of my hand. When I stopped using those, that went away. So now all my grippers have some sort of curl to the fingertips to them. Fat grips, we train with big fat grips. What do we do?
Oh, I'm tired of saying yes and wrong every time.
You can say yes this time. All right.
Yeah, I do use those.
Yeah, I do a lot of fat grip training, but again, it's mostly pull-ups, back pressure stuff. But if you ever go to one of Travis's seminars, Travis teaches a different style of arm wrestling. He arm wrestles. Why don't you come up here? Now this is. I'll give you a disclaimer in a second. So, my style is I can never get complete control of the guy's hand because my hand isn't that big. So my fingers are fairly relaxed. So if he tries to move, I always want to get some sort of control on his hand. Travis preaches basically making a fist and gripping up over the guy's thumb, and Travis arm wrestles with a closed, in which case. So if you have a multi-spinner, I got fat ones and skinny ones. So I train that as well. All right. Now, everything I'm going to tell you is stuff I truly believe or either I know to be a fact. But we're not unified enough. So if you go to Travis's seminars, if you go to Devin Loret's seminars or something, you're going to hear a lot of stuff that we're on opposite sides of the topic on, or we just disagree about. So I don't know if you can actually argue what's right or what's wrong, but I'm just telling you stuff that I know for a fact. So training our wrists, in order of importance: pronation, supination, rising, cupping. What's the most important? Cupping. What's second? Pronation, then what? Rising. I believe cupping is most important. I would put it cupping, rising, then pronation, then supination. All right? And I don't train supination at all, and I pull on the inside all the time. If you got good cupping, that pretty much that allows you to do anything else. I would suggest, and Travis teaches it's not pronation at all. Travis just says his rising is so strong nobody can contain it. So, but he's got strong cupping too. So I would definitely, in the order of my training, I would train cupping first, then rising. Then if you want to finish out with the pronation, the supination, just to balance the arm, that would be fine.
How do you train rising?
I do. Does everybody know what a multi-spinner is? All right, I train it with a multi-spinner. I just have the pulley low. So I have it. All of my training is, what?
Like a hammer curl?
Yeah, but with the cable machine, it's coming this way. So yeah, I mean, I'm locked in. I'm not flexing the elbow in it. I'm training it.
Do you have?
What?
Just have a high and low on a regular cable machine?
I'm gonna get there right now. It's a good segue. I have my training is it's a pin stack off an old lat row machine, and then I got my table just tied to the floor, so I can put my pulley is either at the ceiling or on the floor. All right, then that allows me to train high or low. I can face the table towards the pin stack, spin it 90 degrees so it's completely parallel or anything in between it. So that gives you 4 variations right there with any handle. And then 3 or 4 handles, you'll easily get up to 12 or more exercises. Okay. Leverage. Long arms are an advantage or a disadvantage?
Oh, advantage. You gotta use those.
Huh? They're an advantage? I would argue differently.
I mean, you get high shoes if you're a short man. Get the high shoes, step up, and you got that post.
So we know what the dad move is, right? All right. The dad move, if someone does the dad move to you, it's humiliating, right? Why? Why would the dad move be humiliating?
Shortens the lever. It's taking you low.
That's right, because I am grabbing you closer to your elbow where you should be stronger. So if a longer arm is an advantage, and I start grabbing you way down here, right, taking away your power, so you're stronger. Come up here. Are you a long arm a disadvantage or disadvantage guy?
I think it's a disadvantage.
Okay, then give me somebody who says it's an advantage. Okay, so if we're arm wrestling, right, now, in order for him to put 100 pounds here, right, it applies through this big long lever arm. So this would be the equivalent of grabbing the sledgehammer at the end of the handle versus closer to it, all right? Now, the long arms there are advantages to a long arm, but it's not the force they generate. One advantage to a long arm, don't get so tight, is when I'm all the way at the end of my table, he's still got a lot of height, so it's very hard to pin somebody. And he can reach across the table. Those are 2 advantages of a long arm. Long arms also usually come attached with a giant hand at the end of it. That is definitely an advantage because he gets all that stuff around my arm. But I would argue if I pull him here, he should be a lot stronger because if I pull out here, if I put 100 pounds here, the torque I put to his arm is 100 pounds times this 18 inches, right? So it's 1,800 inch-pounds of torque on his elbow. But if I grab him at 8, it's 800. So I cut the force I put into his elbow by half by grabbing him lower.
You're saying you need less power?
I'm saying I need less.
Same thing?
I'm saying if I can only put 100 pounds, I'm putting less weight into his arm if I grab him low. It's a lever arm, right?
Yeah, so you're saying the weaker grip's lower. I mean, the lower
He's
grip-
stronger. I'm weak. Yeah.
Yeah.
I put less force into his elbow if I grab him lower, right? It's the difference between if you grab the shovel and you're prying up something, whether you're staying at the end of it, which would be where his hand is, or if I grab right next to his elbow.
Is that why you put rising as the second most important?
I put rising as the second most important. Cupping for sure, because it controls it. Rising because if you got the ability to rise, it kind of shuts down his ability to pronate or supinate or even cup for a little second, a little bit, you know. But those are my opinions. Okay, so test it out yourself. But I would definitely train cupping and rising, and if you got time, do the pronation and the supination. Okay. All right. What else have we learned on YouTube that's good or bad for arm wrestling? It's common knowledge. Static holds.
Ooh.
Okay. I see a lot of people, beginners mostly, they're training their arm wrestling and they just grab a weight and they're holding it. All right. Now we call those static holds. We will talk about isometrics later, but grabbing a weight and just trying to hold it, I would not. Please don't do that. Okay. We don't train negative movements anymore, right? Negative movements, they make you weak, they make you uncoordinated, and they'll make you sore. All right. We already covered that. Beginners get sore when they're getting ripped open, so they're basically doing a negative all the time. Heavy negatives make you weight. If you're just sitting there holding a weight in space, you're not. What you're doing is that's just real slowly letting it down. The better way would be to, if you're going to do your isometrics, put a strap or something against something that don't move. Okay. That prevents the weight from moving. At this point, my muscles are contracted. All right. Isometrics are very beneficial. They'll allow you to train at near maximum weight. There's no eccentric motion, so you don't get sore. You're going to train all your strong force, and you don't gain a lot of weight. So those of you who have to cut weight to make a weight class, put a heavy emphasis on isometrics. All right. Those of you that don't care, that are in the super heavyweight class, that can gain weight, train full range of motion. But isometrics will definitely make you stronger. But they will reduce your coordination some, because you get into these locks, all right? So your coordination will suffer. So just be aware of it when you go to practice. Make sure you're practicing full range of motion. Do some full range of motions on the same day that you do the isometrics. We good so far? All right. Basic arm wrestling techniques. In order of most effective: top roll, hooking, pressing. What's the most effective? What? Yeah. Strongest. If you had to come out with, if you could specialize in one, what move would you train yourself into to win? I agree. I think top roll, then the King's move's a version of it, and then hooking, I think, and then I don't know about pressing. I think pressing is probably the least effective. There are people out there who do it very well, but if you can top roll, definitely top roll. All right, but if you're a hooker and somebody's top roll, well, let's cover the different top rolls first. Come here, Alper. We just got to get some terminology down. So this side of the Mississippi River, basically Dave Patton basically trained everybody this side of the Mississippi to top roll the way Travis does, the way Cobra does, right? Right? Yeah, they plant that elbow and they come up. On the other side, where John Brezink basically trained everybody how to arm wrestle, John does his grip with his fingertip like that. John's top roll is more sideways towards the corner. What's sweet about if you're a Dave Patton style top roller, and Devin does it well, so you can see when Devin sets up, he top rolls this way, but when he hooks, he completely changes the way he stands up to the table to get inside. John will top roll this way, and John will hook this way, right? So John's very efficient from the start. You don't know whether he's hooking or top rolling, and I think he can change his mind at the last minute. The most efficient arm wrestler I've ever seen is Jerry Cataret. Jerry lines up like this, right? And Jerry either does his signature flop or his top roll. So his two attacks, his outside and his inside attack, are even closer together. I think he can change his mind, and after go, he can start flopping and then shoulder roll back in. All right. So he's top rolling. I want to hook him. Okay, this is worth your money too. If you're an inside puller and you're hooked. So let's say he's he's going to Dave Patton top roll. What can I, if I want to hook him, how do I throw this guy inside?
Drive forward.
So he's going backwards, and if I come forward, this is typically where we end up. Or we end up on his side of the table. That's why top rolling is so much better than hooking. Okay? What I found for a top roll is you're either like Rustam Babayev, when they say go, shoot in and try and catch it. And if you're lucky, Krasi does this a lot. Sometimes you can catch the top roller here, but you're still palm up on their side of the table, and he's going backwards. So he, this side of the guy is working a whole lot harder than that side. Okay, you can try and catch it. Sometimes the Ottawa people call it a high hook, and I've never had them fully explain it to me. To me, what I think a high hook is if he top rolls, if I can end up with my wrist curled high, I think that's what I would call a high hook. What someone told me was they say a high hook is actually dropping the wrist and pulling it back. So I don't know what that move actually is, but sort of, instead of trying to blast the guy on first, I would, if he's top rolling, just try to get that cup going and some rising and try and control the hand that way.
How do you set up from the start?
My setup's the same all the time. I always put my right leg is going to be against the table leg and my hips into the table. Your free hand rests comfortably on top of the peg. Beginners put a death grip on it and put their elbow down. Don't do that because that'll stop you, okay? Keep this hand up. If you're winning, your free hand can stay loose there, or you can drop it down where your thumb's just there. If you're losing, that's when you grab a hold of this. So if he's losing, that's the only time you want a lot of power onto that peg. All right? Now, the other way for an inside puller versus a top roller is, so if he goes into we got this works better in a strap just because of the hands. So if he goes to top roll out, instead of me trying to out top roll him, right, or even come down, what I'll do is I will lock. I'll get a good grip on his thumb, and I'm going to roll my hand out with my knuckles up. Okay. At this point, our hands are in a neutral position. Neither one of us has hand control, but my knuckles are up, and even if my wrist is back, we're just stuck here. Okay. At this point, he no longer has hand position over me, so he doesn't have the control. And this is a place you can actually fight the match. Right? And if you've been training side pressure, you can fight this match down sideways, and so can he. All right? Here is it's not a comfortable place, but it's way better than being here. If you get your palm flopped up, it's very hard to dig an arm out of this position. Okay? It's not so bad here. And even if you are here, you can sometimes fight back, and you might be able to roll into
What are you doing to roll out? You're just keeping separation in the wrist.
Well,
so you can still roll out.
what you're doing is, if he you're just following him out. You're just trying to make sure your knuckles are up, and you're showing him the palm of your hand. You're preventing him from taking your hand. So you'll give up some.
You're running from him a little.
Yeah, you're running from him, but mostly to protect yourself. But we're still basically in the center of the table. Okay, so it's a neutral position. It's just that neither one of us are in a good place, but we're in an equal place. Okay. All right.
Would you try to slip?
When you're in, this is in the straps. It's hard to do this outside the straps. So if you do that in the strap, you can protect your hand more because the strap, you're putting your back pressure through your wrist.
You're not worried about getting bent back too much, you personally?
I'm bent back, but so is he.
I know, but how much do you care?
I don't care. I don't care if I'm bent back here. I don't care if I'm bent back when I'm going backward. Being bent back here hurts.
You care more about palm up.
You want knuckles up. Make sure you keep the knuckles up, right? Because he doesn't have control of my hand at this place, And we're just fighting. At this point, our hands are neutralized, and it's just who's got stronger arms and shoulders, right? And those of us that train inside, we're going to be the stronger person in that place. King's move. How do we beat the King's move? I don't know. I mean, I've seen people like Cataract and Pushkar, and those guys just blast through it, and they're really, really strong. I've seen John, somebody else come up here. You come up here.
Get him, Ian.
Yeah.
King's moving.
Back when Michael Todd was
You're in
king,
no danger.
Michael Todd used the King's move off the center of the table, right here, right? So when he was doing that, John was able to just, with cupping and rising, keep the match here, even though Michael Todd dropped down. And John is actually, he was able to control it there and eventually worked into a press. Now with the WAL, and that the pads go all the way to the end of the table, I can't, you're pretending? Yeah. Let's pretend he can put his elbow there.
Right.
Now, people are able to King's move way over here, right? Because their elbow's at the end of the table. At this point, you know, Jerry Cataret and, you know, Devin crawled on the table. Jerry compressed through that. But once again, I'm not going to be able to pin somebody like that. I'm already running out. I ran out of arm, right? The pad stops here. I'm off the pad end. There's no way I'm going to push that down. So,
Do you feel the WAL pads give you an advantage at all?
I think they hurt me because what it does is it allows that top roller to come back 2 or 3 inches to the edge of the table, but I can't come forward to chase it because the pads still stop in the center. All right. But what I think, come back up here, King's move guy. This I don't know about. This is what I'm thinking, but if I got into a match and somebody was king and we're in the King's move, for one thing, if you've ever pulled against the King's move, you think you can beat it. That guy does not feel strong. You sit there and you're so close to the pin pad, you think you can pin the guy. And I think that's why they just grind it out, because the guy getting King's moved feels so strong. It makes you nuts.
Can no one rise and rotate through that at that extension?
I've never seen anybody come up from here, but that's what I was gonna. I would think the move here was, okay, I can't pin him. And if you got the mental capacity to think about it, I think I would come back up with my knuckles back and see if I can't do something in the center of the table. Try and go down again. If he flops out to a King's move, then come back up. If he's here, he's not going to pin me from here. Everybody in the King's move has to come back up to pin you.
Yeah.
And once you realize I'm not pinning him from here, all right, better to come up and fight here and try something. Now the good King's mover, they're constantly rising and rising, so you have to be back protecting that hand. But maybe from here, you know, you can work something around where if he wants to drop into the King's move, but I don't let him swing his hand way out here. You might be able to pin the guy from here.
It always seems like with a King's mover like Michael Todd, he's creating 2 or 3 fouls every time while you're staying completely normal and everything you're supposed to do. He's the one creating foul. He's just sliding in and out with his elbow.
I have no section in here on roughing. Roughing is corrupt.
No,
all right?
but it's very corrupt.
It is.
Because what I don't understand is how that can happen.
I know it's corrupt, and you're on the wrong end of it for a long time at the beginning. But when you get famous, that corrupt roughing starts helping you. Okay, it does even out. But yeah, the roughing in our sport has too much of an influence, and things
that
like
move, there has to be something done with it because you can't slide up and down.
Yeah, and I've seen where people with King's move and their elbow comes up, but they're still touching. I go, well, I don't know how that's not an elbow foul, but this is.
You're the true champion. We know you're a true champion from it.
I'm just saying. So yeah, but the King's move, somebody will figure that out, and I think somebody's going to end up figuring out how to bring that match back to the center of the table.
What are you trying to take from that? That's helping them hold it there for so long. Is it risk, coordination?
Well, okay. A king. Now we're in the straps again, but a King's move, they got a hold of that thumb, and what you feel is mostly pressure up on your fingers, right? But it's down low. But from here, you don't have a lot of ability to generate a lot of force because you're trying to press through there, right? So just try and see. you know, you're pushing your arm.
Yeah.
I'm not hardly doing anything. I mean, I'm just, my arm's locked, right? But you run out of, well, that would be, yeah, and that would be a bad one to King's move because my arms are short. I mean, I can almost be pinned here. But someone like Michael Todd, who can get way out here, right? He has that. Well, that's the problem. See, all of a sudden you're way open.
Running out of pad. Yeah.
Yes.
But the King's move is basically pulling your hand back, and then they're trying to climb.
Could you if you're loose, I'm not strong enough to do this. Could you out-cup them before they get there?
I can, well, if you can do it before they get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people who jump into the King's move first, they're really loose, and they're flying out. So it's hard. It's hard.
They're hitting the back of your fingers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so practice strategy. Table time. Well, what's more important, table time or gym time?
Table time.
Gym time.
I think when you're starting out, I think table time is very important. But it kind of depends whether you're pulling tournaments or super matches. If you're pulling tournaments, you need a lot of table time because you're going to pull a lot of different opponents. But if you got a super match, you're going to pull maybe 5, 6, you're going to go through 5 or 6 starts with the same guys. There are very few arm wrestlers out there that are so technically diverse, they will do more than one thing in a super match. Devin is one. Devin can hook you and top roll you. Most everybody else, you know, Jerry's going to press you. And if that don't work, he's going to press you harder and then harder. Okay? I am going to try to go inside, and if that don't work, I am going to go inside harder. Okay? You are in no danger if we are in a super match of me top rolling you at any point in that super match. Okay? So, and you will know that before we start. So, if we have a super match coming up, you know what I'm going to do. You need a practice session to work out your timing and what you're going to do, and then you need to get to the gym and get strong. Okay? But if you are pulling tournaments, you don't know what the other guy is going to do. And you could be 3 matches in and he's fresh because so it takes a lot of table time to get ready for a tournament. But super matches, not so much. All right? And I would and as you become more advanced in arm wrestling, you'll get a lot stronger in the gym because you'll know what to train and how to rehab stuff, as opposed to, especially once you start getting good and you go to practice. I mean, if you're the toughest guy there, you're mostly just holding these people who aren't challenging anyways. So, around the table time, I was pulling up to 3 times a week with the same 12 to 14 workouts a week that I would normally do. Now, a long table session or something like that will knock you on your heels a little bit in the gym, and we will cover gym training a little bit. It's kind of self-regulating. So, if you're sore, you're weak, you can't lift as much or as long, but you still train, you know.
So you're going on how you feel. You don't really have I got to do these many reps. You're going off how you feel.
I set up the sets and reps, and if I can't get them, I can't get them.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I don't back the weight off. I don't skip that day. Even if I was training on the table all night long and hungover and doing coke, still go to the gym the next morning.
Do what your body allows you to the maximum.
Even if you can't lift, go to the gym and play around or something. Yeah, do not get in the habit of, I feel bad, I'm not going to the gym, and all of a sudden a day off turns into a week off, into a month off. Still go. Get conditioned to go. When your workout's there, go. Even if you're not lifting, go. Okay? But in practice time, you guys, how do you guys practice? Is it
around here in Florida? We have a lot of practices.
Okay.
It's usually one every weekend or one during the week, every week.
So how do you figure out?
There's different. There's the slow setup. We do that a lot in Georgia. We do if you know you're better, all right, ready, go, and try to catch. And I've been a lot of places. All right, you're ready, whoa.
Okay, that's what I was getting to. Most of
nice around here, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we're nice in Georgia too.
Most of the practices I've been to, it's been you ease into it. It's that slow, steady grinding, and you're doing all these 20 and 30-second pulls in practice. But then you go to a tournament, and you have 0 30-second pulls, right? You pull 6 matches, and the total time of all 6 matches is about a second because it's ready to go and they're slamming into it. But nobody practices like that, all right? Except Team South Carolina did. When I was with them, they would line it up. So if you and I were practicing, somebody else would act as a ref, and they practiced official setups, ref setups, ready goes, and then if you were going to grind it out, you had to stop that match. But almost everybody else, almost every place else we go, I've been, you ease into it and you're trying that stuff. So you're building up work capacity and stuff, but you're really not perfecting how you arm wrestle. When I was in Utah, they wouldn't let us hit. We'd have practice at Bob Brown's house, and he wasn't letting people hit for the fear that he thought that's how people were getting hurt and getting sore. So practice was Thursday at his house. Tuesday nights we practiced at my house, and then it was all ready to go, hitting setups and stuff.
Yeah, around here we never really do no ready goes unless we say, hey, come ready go us. You know what I mean? That's pretty much how it is.
But if you got a match with Daniel Mosier coming up, that slow grinding practice ain't doing you a whole lot of good, right?
You're right.
You know, you need to
be ready for that hit.
Or if you got to pull Corey Miller, sitting here in practice grinding out for 30 seconds is not going to prepare you for those 2 guys. Or Rustam Babayev, you know.
It don't matter how good you are slow pulling if you ain't ready for that yet.
Yeah. I mean, if you're getting those fast guys, and they have to, I assume they're practicing that. I don't know how they get that fast.
How do you practice a ready go safely if you're new?
If it's 2 beginners, you just got to be careful. But looking at your hand, always look at your hand, it should be fine. But if you're doing ready goes in practice, somebody should be setting you up, making sure you're started straight and everything else. But there's a risk. I tore my left bicep in practice, you know. Arm wrestling right-handed. So I was arm wrestling right-handed, tore the left bicep. Yes, we'll get to the workout session, but I'm a big believer in volume, right? Both for rehab, but for building power. When we get to the training method, we'll cover 1 rep maxes, which forms the basis of your program and how you cycle it. But you can't max out all the time, so you got to throw that volume to get the work in. And I think those long grinding practice sessions help, because tournaments take forever anyway. So there's a couple of things that nobody's ever improved in arm wrestling. The weigh-in procedure at every tournament sucks. You're cutting weight, they make you stand in line, you got to fill out 2 or 3 papers, you got to talk to somebody, you got to weigh in, you got to take your clothes off. The weigh-in, nobody's figured out a good way to weigh us in, all right? The other thing is nobody's figured out how to start a tournament on time. Or how to end it on time, all right?
We got too many friends, too many of us are arm wrestlers and want to set it up. And my buddy's coming, he'll be here soon.
I have never been to a tournament that started on time. And I hate the way they I don't know why they do this, but they'll run the tournament's going, so they run like a round out of every weight class, then another round out of every weight class. I wish they would just pick a weight class, run it start to finish, right? Let's say we're going to pull the middleweights, run the middleweights to first place, let those guys leave, bring the lightweights, the super heavyweights in. I don't know why they put these big breaks in the middle of a tournament. You know, they run you down to Final Four, take an hour off. They run another round, take another hour. You know, it's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You're still arm wrestling for a freaking T-shirt. You know, Jesus, just run the weight classes down. But it's never changed. The weigh-in procedure at Zloty is one of the worst I've ever seen, because you easily have hundreds of people there trying to weigh in. They're all packed in. You gotta get your picture taken, sign this paper, pay the money. It's just terrible. But when you're starting out, beginners go to a lot of tournaments. They want to win and stuff like that. I would coach those beginners to pick 1 or 2 tournaments a year that you really want to win, that you want to do well in. Take the rest of your money and go practice at somebody else's house, right? I think you would find it far more valuable. Pull 1 or 2 tournaments in Florida, go practice at Bass House with him. Go up to South Carolina, go to Maryland for a practice. It would be worth the hotel room and the long drive to go practice with people outside your area, where you can get on a table, you can talk to them, you can try different things, and you get to pull them a lot, as opposed to a tournament where you're only going to pull about 7 matches. No matter how many people are in it, it's somewhere between 6 and 8 matches.
That's a big turn.
Yeah, to run 64 people down to one, it's only like 6 or 7 if you're undefeated, you know. So far better to go to a practice where you can talk to somebody and, you know, and pick their brain and stuff. So I didn't do it, but I moved around enough that I got it. But I would tell people, especially on this side of the country, the teams are close enough together, you know. Dave Morocco runs a big practice in Maryland. The folks from New York show up there. Craig Toulier was there a couple of times ago. Marcio's there. So that's a place where you can go see some of the elite pullers, talk to them, practice with them and stuff. And you're not going up to a tournament where you're all caffeinated, ready to go, and you're out, and then you're done. Let's start the training section, but we got to get just a few terms right. We know what pressure is, right? Air pressure in your tires. So force is just pressure times area, right? This is high school physics stuff. So force times distance is work. All right. So a bench press contest. Who's got the advantage? The tall guy or the skinny guy? Not the tall guy or the short guy? Short guy. Why is that? Less distance. So even if they're both benching 300 pounds, the tall guy's got to push that 300 pounds 24 inches, where the short guy's only got to push it 12. Same force, 300 pounds, different amounts of work. So there's less energy expended by the shorter guy. Okay? So force times distance is work. What's power? It's got time. What overtime? It's work overtime. So 2 guys bench press, let's say they're the same height. One guy, they're both bench 300 pounds, same arm. One bench presses it in 1 second, the other bench presses it in half a second. Right? The half-second guy is twice as powerful as the 1 second guy. Okay? So when we get into this, when we start talking about speed, power, endurance, and force, we just have to agree what we're talking about. A lot of times when people like Daniel Mosier and some, we say, wow, they're so fast. I'm wondering if they're actually faster or they're just more powerful. Because speed would be related to their actual reaction time. And maybe maybe their brain does fire quicker than mine. Or maybe they got the timing down. But I think more often than not, it's just their ability to recruit their muscles faster. So that I think they're actually generating more power. Speed at work divided by time. Yeah, work over speed is power. Okay? But a lot of those folks that we call fast don't have a lot of force. If they stop them, it's either because they're out of position or they don't have the force developed, So it's almost I don't know what it's called. But it's almost like the more force you can develop, the less powerful you are, and vice versa. Okay, once again, going to train. Whether you got a pro gym, a public gym, or home gym, all right? We all start out going to the public gym because we don't have the equipment. It is well worth your money to get a gym at your house or at your buddy's house, something that you can go to all the time and set it up, because there's going to be enough arm wrestling specific stuff that go to a public gym. For one thing, you need your arm wrestling table there. And you don't, if you're storing your arm wrestling, it's nice if the public gym lets you store your arm wrestling table there, but then you don't have it at home. And a lot of the training we're going to do on the table has to be anchored, right? So at my house, I just got hooks in the wall, and I just take nylon ratchet straps around the handles and anchor it to the wall. That allows me to move it forwards and backwards, readjust it, and spin it. I've seen people bolt their tables to the floor, and that becomes a mistake pretty quickly, because you're usually fastening it opposite a pulley machine or rubber bands. For years I didn't have the pin stack, and I just had hooks on the wall, and I was pulling against rubber bands, and not the expensive fancy ones. I was buying the bungee cords at Home Depot that for lashing stuff into your pickup truck. The black bungee cords with the hooks on it. Those are the bands I pull against because they're cheap, and they pull about 40 pounds at 14 inches, you know. But build a home gym if you can. And like I said, that pin stack I have, which is anchored against the wall, I borrowed it. I don't own it, but I think the guy who loaned it to me bought it for like $200. 15 years from now, it's still worth $200, you know. And it doesn't take very many months at a gym to cover a $200 pin stack. The machine, and they make very cheap ones. They make it's got like 4 vertical poles and a couple of different pulley setups in it, but it's got a bar where you hang your plates on. Those are not that expensive. They're on Ryan Bowen's videos. And I see a lot of, the place I was at New York, they all had them. They're not real high quality. It's better than nothing, but it's not nearly as good as a true professional pin stack if you can get it. The Krazy machine that he's selling that actually bolts to the table, I don't like those. If you have one, and if that's all you got, use it. But my problem with that is the pulley's right here, so you can't raise it up very much. But if you got a wrist wrench, it's got a big long strap handle on it anyways. Then you got the hook, then you got the cable. All of a sudden, you know, you're starting way back here. You know, if the weight's right there, where we're going to do a lot of training, you know, extreme full range of motion. So the Krazy machine doesn't give you a lot of that. Plus, you know, to do parallel, you're standing here over the peg. You know, where on my table I can just spin it. Okay. So I like Krazy. I like his idea. I do not think you will be happy with that machine. And any machine that any of the homemade machines that people make, where it's just a loading pin, when those weights start swinging, it's really hard to do any rep, because all of a sudden that's weight swinging, and your rep goes from 14 inches on one rep to 5 on the others, depending on where the weight swings. So basic workout routine. Now, I've been preaching the Westside Barbell System for a long time, and there are other systems out there. The Westside Barbell System came from Columbus, from the Westside Gym, and it was at a time when it was developed for powerlifters based off how the Russians and the Bulgarians were training. Lately, there's several powerlifting training methods, and a lot of people are now preaching that they don't have to do the speed day for power. And that might be true. All right. All I'm saying is I love it. I've been doing it for about 18 years. All right. And we'll get into the sweet part of it anyways pretty soon. But the Westside Barbell System, how I interpret it, is you have 3 basic workouts at a minimum. You have a max effort day, a speed day, or what he calls a dynamic day, and then a volume day. Now the volume day isn't necessarily required. It's a bonus day for you depending on if you're cutting weight or not. But everything's based on the max effort day. In max effort day, you work up to a 1 rep max on a single exercise. I explain this a lot of times, and I go, well, you need about 12 exercises for max effort day, 2 or 3 for speed day, and then 1 or 2 for volume day. And you cycle the max effort day. If you've got 12 exercises, you do 1 of those a week. So week 1, you do exercise 1. Week 2, exercise. You don't go back to exercise 1 until week 13. I have people all the time. I did all 12 1 rep max exercises today. What do I do next week? You know, and I draw it out. I live, you know, and I don't know if it's my accent or what, but I go, I did not tell you to do that, you know. Or they were doing max effort day in the morning and speed day in the evening. You know? So, yeah, you want to separate the max effort day from the speed day by as many days as you can. The volume day is it's work capacity. It's kind of what we'd call endurance, and it's volume, and it's just to build up whatever you think you're weak on. Now, so for max effort day, we would you pick several exercises. So if you are naturally a top roller and you're top rolling in practice and everything else, you probably don't have to train your top roll as much in the gym because you're already doing that. You're probably weak on the inside or pressing or something like that. So I would choose exercises that would bring up the weak side of your game. Now, the 12 exercises, but first, why would we max out on several different exercises? Why not just pick our pet move and just max out on it every week?
You never know where you're going to be in a position anyways.
That's true. Good to train all over.
You don't just get to be in your honey hole every time.
Yeah. What
Cobra Kai, snake out.
what people have found out was, and these weightlifters did a lot of the groundwork for us. If you, for like benching, if you benched maxed out every single week, after about 3 or 4 weeks, your maxes stop going up. You hit a plateau, people get stuck at that, and then sometimes it actually comes down, right? So you'll hear people get stuck on it. So then they'll drop back down. They'll say, okay, well, if my max is 300 pounds, I'm going to do 250 for 5, and then 250 for 6, and 250 for 7. Then they start maxing out again, and their max effort list stops. It's because when you do a maximum lift, your body has to either get stronger and overcome it, or in order to protect itself, it starts shutting down, right? And that's typically the symptoms of what people call overtraining. So if you maxed out on the exact same exercise 3 or 4 times, all of a sudden you feel a little achy, you get a cold, you're not motivated, you don't feel like you want to go lift anymore. That's your central nervous system saying, look, that maxing out is fucking me up, right? So we are not going to do that every week. But if you switch the exercise every week, it's something new. So you go out, you go into the gym, you max out on a flat bench. The next week, and the body goes, okay, that was brand new. It's going to recruit some more muscles. It's going to grow some strength. You know, it's going to add mass to the bones and tendons. It's going to get stronger. Then the next week, you do an incline bench. Again, brand new exercise. Your body hasn't adapted to it yet, right? Then a decline bench, and then dumbbell benching, and then benching with a curved bar, and then benching with bobbly weights. So the body, you're constantly hitting your body with something that it's not used to. So your body's constantly growing and overcoming that. So then, after 4 or 5 of those, you go back to the flat bench again. Okay? And what you will find on all those different exercises is there will be an offset. So like if your flat bench is 300 pounds, your incline bench might be 280 and your decline bench might be 260. That 20 and 40 pound offset will be consistent. So you can raise your incline bench and just assume your flat bench is coming up with it. So you don't actually have to flat bench to know where you're going to be. Now, for us, we're not benching. Well, I don't believe benching is that important anyways. But, so, for our arm wrestling training, what?
I don't think benching's important. Either, I don't even care.
I do it, but I usually do my benching on weekends, because those are the workouts I normally, like I'm here for the weekend. So Saturday's my bench day, but more often than not, I will miss a Saturday workout. But I never miss a Monday through Friday workout. So those are the important workouts. Saturday and Sunday are the workouts that are less important. But so we need to develop exercises to improve our arm wrestling. Okay, we know what the wrist wrench is. That's my favorite. It trains cupping very well. Oh, it's my favorite, and it's good to have that in a couple of different sizes. Now, you don't need a big 4-inch one if you're in a 165-pound weight class. You want one that's about where the position your hand's going to be against your opponents, and then one a little bit bigger, just to train it some, and then we can all use a very, very tiny one, right? Like an 1.25 inch or a 1-inch one, you know, like a barbell size, just to change it. But the wrist wrench is probably my favorite one. The wrist wrenches they're making now have a strap across the bar, and people are sliding their hands in it. So they got this wrist wrench, and they got that strap on the back of their hand. Yeah, don't do that, because the whole beauty of the wrist wrench is.
Thought it was mattering, but it don't.
No, well, it's probably hurting you.
That's
Because
right.
what the wrist wrench will do,
Keep doing that.
it'll train that cupping, and it teaches you to keep your fingers firm but in control to stop that bar from rolling out. If you got that strap across the back of your hand can flop all the way back, and you still got a hold of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering with that, because I'm like, is that making any Yeah.
I wish they wouldn't, and I see people slipping their hand behind. Don't put the strap behind your hand on any of the handles. But, Uncle Todd, how do I train for straps? Because in the WAL, you can get in the straps all the time. That's true. Just what I use is just use your normal weightlifting wrist wraps. The ones that come across your waist that you route on the bar. So you can grab your wrist wrench with that wrist strap, wrap it around, and train them. All right? But yeah, don't put your hand in that strap. And they sell several handles now that are like molded plastic.
Yeah.
And they all have like this adjustable strap for the back of your hand. It's like, I can't.
So do you ever train negative? Or is it always neutral or positive?
On 1 rep max day, whether I got the multi-spin or the wrist, eventually when I'm getting near my max, my hand flops out. For me,
So you do,
yeah,
you pull
but it's a
But
1
your
rep
arm's stronger than what your hand.
for me.
Yeah.
But it's 1 rep max. It's the most weight you can move,
Yeah.
and it's not the most weight you can move with some made-up militant form. All right, or the most weight you can move without getting called for an elbow foul in Zloty. It's the most weight I can move. So I start here, and if my hand flop, the multi-spinner's the worst one for me. My hand will flop all the way over, and I'm basically like milking a giant cow. But
Yes.
I pull that, if that weight goes down, I count it as a 1 rep max.
So,
Yeah.
so you still finish it, or do you still work the curling back in? Or do you just neutralize that and work the
To
lock?
me, it's, here's the handle table setup. All right. As long as that handle goes to the table, it counts as a rep. I don't add or deduct points for form. All right. And then I'll put the wrist wrap on and do it. So the early reps, do we all know what a multi-spinner is? Worst name in arm wrestling. It might be the worst name from the high hook. It's a multi-spinner is basically it's a wrist wrench, but it's only got a strap at one end. So it's a pipe. You wrap the strap around it. There's nothing multi about it. There's nothing spinning.
One direction, one pull.
Yeah, I don't know who named it the multi-spinner.
What country did this come from?
I don't know, but if you and
Not America. No.
well, it's in English,
Oh my lord.
but
I thought we came up with simple.
yeah. But with all of these, so for me, when you're doing the 1 rep max, and with me over the multi-spinner, like I said, my hand folds, and my right's not so bad. My left folds completely over. You know what's preventing you from lifting more weight. All right. For me, it's almost always my hand, and it's always cupping. So that tells me add more volume to my cupping exercises that day because I got to get the cupping up in order to lift more weight.
Yeah.
To me, it's never my bicep. My biceps are never letting go. Right? I never have a problem with my elbow opening up. I always have problems with my hand. When we started training Ryan Bowen, his hand was solid. He just flat couldn't move it with his arm. He didn't lose his hand, but he would lean over and his hand would stay there, but that arm wouldn't move. So
I notice him. It's here and it's looking there, but then it's nothing from there. It's not a finish, get behind, nothing. There's nothing else.
So he would need to throw a lot more volume into his upper arms and his shoulders, right? For me, it's opposite, right? And that's why I like this system because we'll cover the basic system, but it's self-regulate. As long as you're paying attention to where your weak spot is, you adjust your own weak spots, and then keep moving forward. That way, people ask me to help them with their training and stuff. If you ask somebody, hey, I need a workout, can you help me? And they email you a recipe of sets, reps, and weights, I would not follow that because if they haven't seen you lift and if they don't know how strong you are, how could they send you that? And how would you know that's right?
Everyone's different.
You need to train differently than he does because you're built differently, you know?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Similar to the wrist wrench, do you ever train any rolling handles, like a rolling thunder, something that doesn't just pull straight down, that the straps around?
Once I found a wrist wrench, I stopped doing all those straight handles, the rolling thunders. I have the country crush handles, which are nice for wrist curls, but to me, that wrist wrench, and mine's over 3 inches, so that strap's coming right off my fingertips. So once I got that, I stopped using all the other handles.
Do you like it better for the size or because it tries to pull out of your...
I like it better because all the straight handles, the force comes right here, right next to your knuckles. you know. Where the wrist wrench, it forces you to get that cupping in. Where a rolling handle, especially a small one, you don't have to do any cupping. Like, yeah, and a wrist wrench lowers the amount of weight I can lift compared to a thin handle or even a rolling handle, you know. Here's some examples of my workout. Just pass this out. I don't have enough for everybody. Just grab one and pass it around. But so Monday's max effort day. We're gonna grab a exercise. We're gonna work up to a 1 rep max. We're gonna record what that 1 rep max is, and we're gonna record what caused us to stop going higher, whether it's elbows, shoulders, or our hand, typically. On Wednesday is our speed day. All right. Speed day is, it can be, you pick an exercise that you're currently trying to develop. Okay. So speed day. Okay, so max effort day, what are we training? Force, work, or power? Primarily force, right? Because the 1 rep max lifts are very slow, so there's not a lot of power, and there is work involved because we're doing distance. Okay. Speed day is about 60% of your 1 rep max weight. So, but your 1 rep max is switching every week. It's a different 1 rep max. Your speed day, you can use the same exercise over and over and over again, or you can switch it up. I rotate through 3. I'm currently trying to develop top rolling power. So I do a wrist wrench on speed day 1 week. I do a multi-spinner 1 week, and then I just have a towel I grab, which is kind of a rising handle. And then every week I rotate through that. But the weights on speed day are about 60%, but you add bands to it, okay? And you add the bands because the more you pull it, the more weight it adds. The beautiful thing about pulling against these bands is they have some give to it. So if you're arm wrestling somebody and you're locked in, if you bump, their hand moves, right? Their bones flex, their tendons stretch, their muscles give a little bit. But dead weight does it. You hit into a dead weight, that's a shock, all right? So bands teach you that you can quickly power into it and get some motion going, all right? So you start about 60% of your weight, you add some rubber bands to it, and then 1 rep max. Anytime we're doing heavy lifts, the weight starts on the floor, no tension in it. A 1 rep max is not loading it up with 2 hands, coming back and then counting that as a rep, right? A 1 rep max is there's nothing there, you gotta load. It's like it's deadlifting versus squatting. There's nothing there, then you have to pull it up. So you have to accelerate that weight from 0 speed. Yes, sir.
Honestly, I felt I've gained more off of bands than I have heavy lifting. If I was trying to be a power lifter, I've gained more off of bands.
I agree. And another thing about on speed day is, so max effort day, there's no load, 1 rep max. However you can get it down. You know, if you foul and you're doing this, cheat if you have to, but record it. Because if you try to lock yourself into direct form and then you unconsciously cheat, your numbers go up. You don't know if you actually got stronger. Yeah. But if you're cheating it, you're going to cheat it every week. As long as that weight, you still did more force, you still did more work because you added weight to it. So go ahead and cheat.
Yeah, numbers don't matter once you hit that tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And form doesn't either. You know, as long as you pin you don't get points for pinning
the. Horrible. Form don't matter.
Well, you don't get extra points for pinning with your wrist curled versus your wrist back.
I understand.
You know, I mean, they don't deduct points because you kings moved somebody. You still
hitting on the kings. The dang kings move is what we're working.
Speed day is not from a dead load. There's a band. You load it up. You hit into it as hard as you can. As the weight's going back on the eccentric motion, don't stop it, but while it's moving, hit into it again. So speed day is 1, 2, 3.
Never.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's always motion, and you're reversing it. If the weight's traveling away from you, and then you reverse it and make it travel towards you at the same velocity, it takes a lot of acceleration to do that.
Yes.
That
And we're not doing that either.
Yeah, that acceleration times the mass is force. So it's a way of putting a high level of force into your arm for a very short period of time. So with 60 pounds and reversing it, you might have to put 150 pounds into that 60-pound weight to change its direction, but it's only for like 0.01 seconds. But the body still registered 150 some pounds of force, okay? As opposed to grabbing a 150-pound weight and trying to move it, all right? So it's still high levels of force, but it's two different methods that got applied to the body, okay? Like I said,
How many different angles do you put that band at?
I do one exercise, and wherever the weight is where. So I got a high pulley, and my band's attached right next to the pulley. I got a pulley on the floor, and I got bands that are attached right next to the floor. Okay, that's a good question, though. I see a lot of people, they'll have a cable or something, so they got a weight here, and then they hook like the band here. Okay, this is why everybody used to talk about angles. The reason why I started preaching vectors is if you have a weight here coming down and then a band over there, those two directions add and result in a single line of force somewhere between those two angles. So you're not training so much side and back at the same time, you're training some goofy angle. You could have just turned the table. It's combined. That's exactly right. And then, so we covered max day, speed day. Friday is my volume day, and that's work capacity stuff. And that, to me, that's 10 sets of 5, and I'm adding 2.5 pounds every week until I can no longer do the 10 sets of 5. And then I'll switch exercises and start over again, just 10 sets of 5. And that's just, it teaches you just to grind it out. Those 7 and 8 hour tournaments where you just feel wore out all the time, it trains that. And it's a lot of volume. It's almost always a wrist wrench, parallel or something. So it just throws a lot of work into the elbows to build up that foundation so you can do higher max effort stuff. Okay? So these 2 workouts that I gave you, they're not sets and reps. These are the second one on the second page. This is the exact routine I was doing until they canceled the WAL season this year. This is where I thought I had to pull Ryan Espy, right? I was training, I had 14 workouts a week I was doing, but in all honesty, the Saturday and Sunday evening workouts I was almost always skipping. I was just wore out. So I was really doing 12 workouts a week, all right? When they canceled the WAL, right, in order to free up my evening so I could work on my house and do other things, I went to the workout that's here, okay, which is only about 7 workouts a week. And like I said, the Saturday and Sunday ones I skip a lot. All right. So this is just a blueprint so we can talk about it. Then max effort day is followed after we do our 1 rep max work. For me, it's almost always my cupping that's letting go, that's preventing me from doing more max effort work. So I follow that with some wrist curls. And it's usually sets of 5 or 6. I want to do heavy wrist curls, but it's on a cable machine, and it's a pipe with the strap wrapped around it. And I'm either doing wrist curls from up high, down low, up, underhand, down. And again, dead starts. It's not curl it up and bounce that weight. It's the weight's on the floor and then it's curled up. So it's like deadlifting.
So just curious, when you're putting pressure load on your tendons of the wrist, what's the longest day you get for rest? You're talking 2 days, 3 days, 7 days.
This is my exact workout. So I work out Monday. I hit the wrists on Monday and Wednesday. And I don't do them on Friday because we'll get to the Friday workout, which is, I've only been doing the Friday workout for about a year or so. I think it's working, but I'm not going to preach it until I know it's working. But I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. But the wrists are, I'm typically, it's like 4. I was doing 3 sets, now I'm doing 4. But it'll be wrist curl, and then it'll be reverse wrist curl. And my reverse wrist curls are not the classic bodybuilder isolated ones. I mean, if they're down here, I wrist curl them up like this. It's almost a hammer curl. My wrist, like I said, my wrist curls up high. I'm using my shoulders and my back, right? Because when we're arm wrestling, I get to use it.
Is with your tendon strain on the wrist, do you actually worry about days of rest, or do you do constant?
I have no days of rest.
Good. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Because some of us, some of us don't worry about days of rest. It's constant tendon strain until you have tendon weakness or tendon injury, and then you're looking at weeks of repair. But when you're building it up, some of us, you don't really worry about recovery.
Yeah.
It's just constant tendon.
I don't. My
work.
Friday, that big volume, those 10 sets of 5, is probably as much. And I got the JM presses. That's probably all the rehab I'm doing. But rest days is the rest days is something that came out of bodybuilding. You train hard, day off. How much time do we take off before a tournament? 3 days a week?
2 weeks for full evidence.
2 weeks? One?
Muscle work, 3 days. 1 week.
And some people taper. Here's my philosophy on it. On my max day, I am setting a new PR 9 out of 10 weeks. Now it's a different exercise, but 9 out of 10 weeks I'm hitting a new PR. If I don't set a PR in an exercise, I'll come back to it eventually. But if I don't set a PR in that exercise for a couple attempts in a row, and if I got 12 exercises, there's 26 weeks. I will then go back, retool my program, and add what's weak there. But if I'm setting a PR every week, I'm getting stronger every week. Why would I stop training? But for years I would taper. I would pull my max effort down, my volume down and stuff. But that tapering off is usually they're usually endurance sports. It's usually swimmers, soccer players, people who run wrestlers, so people who run races and marathoners that will sometimes taper off. But you're gonna go pull 7 matches, 5 of them are going to be 0.2 seconds long. Okay, we're not in a big aerobic sport. We're in an anaerobic sport. So I stopped tapering. But if you got to cut weight, all right, my weight cut was it took about 10 days. I would pretty much stop training then because I'm not drinking water. I'm calorie deficient. I'm cutting stuff out. So I would stop training. So that would be almost a week off. If you got to travel to a tournament, right? If the tournament's on Saturday, you're usually traveling or weighing in on Friday, so that's a day off. Probably skip the Thursday workout. So 1 or 2 days, just naturally. But to actually have a day where you just stop training, I don't do it.
Right. So tendon strain maybe 5-7 days, muscle strain 3 to 5 days if you're cutting. I mean, if you're cutting, then it gets shorter.
If you got to cut weight,
then
I don't stop. I don't hurt anymore. Once I started doing these JM presses, I stopped taking painkillers. I haven't had pain in years.
Right.
Yeah, I would get it right here in the middle, and then the toothache right on the inside. I haven't had that in years, and I pull a lot these days.
Do you think that has anything to do with the amount of time you've been pulling, or is it just the JM?
I think I'm getting stronger, but I'm also pulling and training harder. So I'm putting more stress into the tendons, but I just think those JM presses strengthen those tendons.
So you feel like those negate too, like when you're training, if you're training hard, hard hits, back pressure and rotation. I mean, because back pressure and rotation, you're going to get that. It almost feels like bone pain through here and through here. Those JM presses.
The JM presses fix the elbows for sure, and train your wrists do your wrist curls in this position, right? If you got to put the country crush on your table and do the wrist curls there, train your wrist curls like that. Okay, yeah. So maxed out. We did some wrist curl work. Do the JM presses. Like I said, wide, medium, narrow, wide, medium, narrow. Speed day is the same thing. It's wrist work again, but it's just a different position. And then Friday, what I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing the 10 sets of 5. I'm not cutting weight anymore, so I can gain weight. It's 10 sets of 5. It's just wrist reps, and it's just to put a lot of stress into the elbow and the shoulder. And I'm adding weight every week. I stop my left trails my right by quite a bit. My right is easily 20 or 30 pounds stronger than my left, and it always has been. I always train my right as hard as I can. I just let the left fall behind if it has to. So last Friday, the left was only, I was at 87 pounds, and the left I could only do sets of 4. My right I could still do I think my right will go up to 100 pounds, and my left is going to be doing like sets of 1 and 2 by then. Then I'll switch the exercises and move forward. The other thing I do on Friday is, it's my version of the hammer curl, but you take your normal Olympic bar, you set it on pins, grab 2 towels or 2 straps, wrap them around the bar, and curl it like you would normally with some kind of pronation. The bar is now swinging. I'm doing wide, medium, and narrow grips, right? And I've also got the weights swinging on the bar, so there's a lot of motion there, and I'm doing sets of 15 on that, but it's all just to get, well, what are we training if we're doing 3 sets of 15? Are we developing force, work, or power? Work. Very good.
Yeah, endurance, sure.
Isometrics, force, work, or power. What do isometrics train? Force. How much work is in an isometric? Zero, because nothing's moving. So it's all force. Isometrics are great at force, and there's 0 work, 0 power. The other thing that's common between the 2 workouts, Tuesdays and Thursdays, the big muscle group I train to support arm wrestling is the back. I'll squat and I'll bench press. I don't think bench pressing is that important for arm wrestling. I think the back for sure is, because I'm pulling backwards, so I want my back strong, you know. So I used to do a speed day and a max day on the back, but now I just switched the speed day to a volume day just to try to gain some body weight. I'm in this super heavyweight class, and I'm 80 to 100 pounds smaller than all these people, so I'm just trying to get bigger.
I see there's some abs in here Tuesday, Thursday too.
Yep. We'll get to abs in the lower back. Abs is there's kettlebell and abs a couple of days a week. The kettlebell swings are very good for strengthening the lower back, and the abs balance that out. And train your abs standing up. All right, we're not trying to build swimsuit abs. We're trying to build abs that are strong because you're competing standing up. Train your abs standing up. Get some stability into that lower back. And the kettlebell swings, I hate them. I hate those exercises so much. I'm just doing them now because I think it's making me mentally tougher to force myself to do something I hate. I absolutely hate the kettlebell swings, but I can feel them making me strong, even on my pull-ups and my squatting and stuff. I can feel that lower back getting stronger, so I know they're important, but I hate them with a passion, and I just grind them out. Yeah, Saturday and Sunday is chest and squatting, just, you know, so that's my basic routine. You can work out twice a day. I highly recommend twice a day. In the evenings is when I would do the isometrics and the plyometrics. Okay? Like I said, isometrics, you could grab the same vectors you were doing, but instead of being able to rep it all the way to the table, attach a chain or a nylon strap that prevents it. All right? So let's say we're doing it's a wrist wrench motion against a strap. If I pull that strap tight, right, and there's 100 pounds on it, I know I'm lifting the 100 pounds of weight that I moved. But in order to keep that strap tight, I got to apply more than the 100 pounds. It might be 200 pounds, it might be 100 pounds, 13 ounces. You don't know, but you know you're applying more than the 100, but it forces your muscles into the contraction phase, as opposed to just holding it and letting it slowly go down, okay? So do your isometrics against a hard stop, and as far as sets and, there's not reps, but as far as sets and time, I don't know. I usually do counts of 5 just to speed things up. It's usually about 6 sets, and I count to 5 or 6 or so. I've tried doing it for, if you do your isometrics longer, It's more beneficial because if you do your isometrics for a long time, the primary muscles that you initially engage will tire, and then your body will start recruiting the other muscles, so it'll train all around. But it's just boring. It's boring to sit there and hold that weight for 30 seconds, you know. And our matches aren't that long, so I try to, like I said, I keep coming back to a match is half a second to a second long, so I condition lifting weights in that half second to 1 second range.
Until you actually hit that 30-second match, and then
Right.
fuck, why didn't I work this?
But if I'm in a 30-second match, then that means our force is equal, But if you got more force or power than the other guy, you should stay out of those long matches, But I get into them too, But being in isometrics, if you're doing isometrics at a 5 or a 6 count, that's a pretty heavy weight. So you're comfortable in that heavy weight without anything moving, The speed reps? The speed reps, you do it as fast as you can. Now the heavier the weight is, the slower it does. But if you can hit into it and make that weight bounce as fast as you can, because what speed day is about generating force through acceleration. So it's a lower weight, but you're accelerating it, and the force, the acceleration times the weight is the force. So you're hitting it as hard as you can, And I always set the speed day up with the band somewhere around the starting position, because that's where you want to be able to accelerate. I don't do my speed day at the extreme ends of motions. I'm trying to set my speed day and my isometrics up right around a neutral grip.
So will the band already have tension before you go?
The band has tension. The band should be under tension the whole time. So speed day is the one time if you load it up with 2 hands, then you do your speed day reps. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yep. The West Side Barbell preaches I think it's like 6 to 9 sets of 3 on speed day. But that's for bench pressing, that's for squatting, that's for deadlifting. We're arm wrestlers. I think you need to be more like sets of 6, just because we're not moving the heavy weights and we're not moving them as far. That's something that comes up every once in a while. The Europeans do a lot of, they'll grab a weight and they do these little tiny reps.
A lot of their pulls look like, especially lighter weights below 200, it's just,
Yeah.
It's none of this, it's just, as fast as you say go,
Yeah.
If we get caught here, then it's like, all right, we'll get the shoulder, otherwise it's,
I don't preach the little tiny reps. I preach full range of motion on max effort day and speed day and volume day, and then 0 motion when you do isometrics. So we're on both sides of that. So as far as doing that little weight, and Dave Chafee does a lot of those, a little dink, 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 dink stuff. I'll do a full range of motion on one workout, isometrics on the other. I covered everything in between. And that makes more sense. I can control how long I've done an isometric. But if you're doing these little bounces, I have no idea if I'm bouncing at the same amount of weight, or it's hard to record anything. And the reason why I like this strategy is if you're getting stronger. If your 1 rep maxes are not going up, you are not getting stronger. Okay? You might be doing more work, you might be adding reps to something, but you're getting stronger if your 1 rep max went up. If you used to bench 400 and now you bench 402.5, you're stronger. But if you used to bench 400 10 times and now you're benching 400 20 times, I don't think you're stronger. You've done more work. Maybe your power's up, but your force isn't, because it's the same 400 pounds. All right? 1 rep max is a way of recording whether or not you're getting stronger. And if it stops going up, and it will, you got to figure out what's preventing me from adding weight to it. And then you go add volume to that part of your body. To me, it's almost always cupping. All right? But some people, it'll be arms or shoulders or lower back or something, And for me, you can tell, especially on the multi-spinner and the wrist wrench on my left, sometimes it starts shaking when the weights get up. I can't, I can't steady it. So I'll do a lot of wrist curls in that extended arm motion,
You said you cycle 1 rep maxes, like each body part, every 13 weeks?
It depends how many you have. So if you're just starting out, pick 4. Because if you're just starting out, you want to get that motivation that comes from getting stronger all the time, right? So if you pick 4, then every 4 weeks you get a set a new PR.
It's basically just every PR is a week.
There's a PR each week, a different exercise. But if you've got 4, let's say we do wrist wrench high, wrist wrench low, multi-spinner high, multi-spinner low. On week 5, it's wrist wrench high again. So you can go look at what you did 4 weeks ago and say, all right, I'm going to add 5 pounds to that. Then the next week, you're going to add 5 pounds to it. I'm doing like 12. So I just trust I'm getting stronger, but it takes 13 weeks before you doubled up on that exercise again, you know?
You're like, oh fuck, 3 months later, like, damn, I didn't go high enough.
Yeah. Well, that'll happen. When you're doing 1 rep max stuff, you gotta come to a decision on how long are you going to, like, to get to a 1 rep max, all right? Try to do it within 12 reps, all right? Try to do it within 40 minutes. But theoretically on 1 rep max day, if I didn't work, I could stay down in the gym all day, rest an hour, and add another 2 ounces to it, rest, you know? So, yeah. Pick about 12 to 14, try to do it in 12 to 14 reps, quicker than 40 minutes. Towards the end, 5, 10, and 15-minute rests are completely acceptable to set a 1 rep max, whatever it takes to get that added rep. And then as your 1 rep max comes up, so does your speed work, because that's about 60%, you know, and your volume work, you're just adding to that anyways. And your isometrics, you will see the isometrics come up very fast. It's very impressive how quickly you can add time or weight to an isometric, you know.
As far as 1 rep maxes go, is that a true 1 rep max, or are you just aiming for a new PR every cycle of weeks?
It's the most I can do. And how I know it's the most I can do is I will I record the weight I can lift, and then if I'll go higher, if I fail it 3 times, then I say, okay, I'm not doing anymore. But if I fail it at least no more than 3 times. Sometimes I'll set a PR and I'll add a little weight to it, and I go, oh, there's no fucking way, you know. And there's a big difference, and when you're recording your 1 rep maxes, right? Record the one that was a full rep. A lot of times I can get the weight off the floor, but I can't move it. Like I can get it halfway or 3/4, and I'll record that. I'll say, look, this is what I lifted. I lifted the 110 pounds all the way. 112, I was only able to budge it off the floor. That lets you know how close you really are, because you can only move in the increments of the weight you can control. My smallest weight is 2.5 pounds, right? So sometimes adding 2.5 pounds is a difference between moving it and not even getting it off the floor.
So are you worried more about moving it or the speed at which you're moving it? Like sometimes, like say, you can only move it 1 time, but you can move it really fucking fast.
I don't record on 1 rep max day. It's the amount of weight I can move the full rep. I don't care how long it takes, you know. Speed, you know, we work power on speed day, but 1 rep max day is if it takes 8 seconds for me to get it down, all right, I record it. I wrote 1 rep max PR, took 8 seconds, so I know. So 12 weeks later when I come by, I don't think I just muscled it over, because it might, you know, if it took 8 seconds and I come back 13 weeks later and try to hit it down, I go, oh man, I can't even move it. When I look at my notes, no, I had to grind that thing out. You know.
What if you fail on the lift? Do you keep the weights the same for the whole cycle? The whole 12-week cycle, you keep the weights the same and then try that number again?
I will, if I don't set a PR, all right, now the following week, I'm going to try a PR on a different exercise. I will come back to an exercise. If I don't set a PR, I'll come back to it at least once, maybe twice. It's all, no, not in between. No, it's
all the way.
Yeah, week 1 I didn't set a PR. I put a frowny face on next to it. Yeah, and it's 12 weeks before I get to try it again. You know, and that can there's a tendency to want to come back to it quicker. This is what happens when you are maxing out. When you're a beginner, you can max out to the same exercise a couple of weeks in a row. The more experience you get to lifting, the less that window is. And experienced lifters, if you maxed out on an exercise on Monday, if you try to come back to it Monday, it's probably going to be less. because your body recognizes it right off the bat and shuts that down. So you need that 12 plus weeks before you come back to it, before your body will even let you do it. And if you keep trying to do it anyways, it's mentally devastating, because you go, oh, for crying out loud, I want to add 2 pounds to it. Instead, I dropped it by 10, you know, and then you get into a vicious cycle. So just trust that if you set a PR the week before, you drop this one, next week you set a PR on a different exercise, you know you're getting stronger, but it could just be a bad day, it could be a bad, you didn't sleep as much that night.
That's what I was curious, like, do you worry about power over speed? Or do you just
the heavy
think about the power over the PR?
Yeah, I love one.
Fuck up, man. I'm trying to ask questions.
We train force and power and work separately.
So, yeah, I guess, I mean, you understand, so the force given, like, with speed and time and all that. But, that's what I was wondering, because you're talking about, like, the force applied over time in the build, but not really worrying about, like, the speed.
Yeah, you're heavy.
And I'm curious because, like, I'm one of those pullers where, I don't know, there's a lot of guys that are way stronger than me, but with my knowledge and my speed, I outmatch a lot of people just because I'm way faster, because I know way more, but I don't have that fucking power.
Well, you might have power, but not force. I think that's where Daniel Mosier. I think Daniel Mosier's got lots of power. I think his force is just, and that would be a beautiful place to be in, because it's easy to build force. Isometrics build force in a hurry, and if he would do isometrics and some speed work to get that force up, he's already got the power. That, I mean, he would be devastating. He's got a lot of potential if he could get that force up. You know.
Besides the JM presses for rehab for your elbows, you know, whatever sort of pain you have. What do you do if you have like an acute injury or something just feels wrong?
I go see a doctor.
Okay, well, I mean, as far as your workout.
Don't message me and ask me, hey, this hurts, what do I do? Foreigners do it all the time. This hurts. I go see a doctor. Do not ask an arm wrestler for medical advice. Okay.
How would you tweak your workout if something's nagging out your wrist or finger?
If I had something that was specifically sore, and it happens all the time, I usually will add volume on that, knock the weight down, and do a lot of reps on that particular exercise to try to work through it. There is something about this blood flow rehab and stuff, but like I said, the JM presses are going to fix a lot of stuff. I told you about the flat handles that were just aggravating my hand, right? I just stopped using those handles, and within a week or so, that pain went away. If you got something nagging you, something's wrong. You're either doing it to yourself or there's something inside you that has to be tweaked, you know. You're an arm wrestler, right? You know? Oh, you are today.
Yeah. You are today. Someone's a table.
Training girls and training beginners. All right? So, come up here. I've always had girls in my practices, and I've always had, all right, the problem with the girls get the raw end of the deal, because they show up, they have to arm wrestle the guys, and the guys stand there and they hold them, right? And she, you know, and, oh, well, I'm making you work, you know, but they don't, you're really not training them. What we did we had a lot of girls on our South Carolina team. If you're the guy, fold 2 or 3 of your fingers under your hand, okay? At this point, it takes away a lot of my hand control, all right? Now, when we arm wrestle, she has the ability, she can top roll, she's got all kinds of advantage on top rolling, but she feels, I'm still using most of my arm, I'm using almost all of my arm power just through my weakened hand. So, she will feel like she's actually in the match and working on it, and then when I hit, she forces her to readapt and compensate for it. The other thing, the other thing, you mind if I put this around your neck? Okay.
Fix your legs.
Yeah. The other thing you can do with beginners and stuff is a lot of time, like if you're Dave Chafee or even your dad, I don't know how he practices with people that are so much weaker than him. Okay? But what you can do, yeah. But you're not developing force or power then. He's just developing work, right? So he's getting really good at pulling medium people for a long time. He needs to get good at pulling awesome people for a short time.
Yeah.
If you put a strap or rubber band around the weaker puller in this position, it supports their arm. At this point, we can work hands as hard as I can, but I can't pin her. Because if I go to pin her and if she just leans back with her back, all right, this will help your dad a bunch, because I put this on weaker pullers at my house, and I can smash into them as hard as I want. They can say ready, go, and I can put as much power as I can generate into that. It doesn't hurt them, and they can, yeah. So it's a way of benefiting. It helps the beginner, the weaker puller, train hand, because they get to train their hand without their arm getting away, and allows me to train as hard as I want in a real arm wrestling setting. So that again pays for your entire time in seminar. That is so valuable. We train the side pressure like this. The vectors you choose for training side pressure, grab a wrist wrench, put it parallel to the table, or put it off to the angle. Do your max day and your speed day and your volume day with it. All right? That'll force you to incorporate the shoulders and this upper arm and that elbow. And that wrist wrench with a high pulley, either here or here, will push that, and that side pressure comes up fast. It's very easy to add power to it. But that wrist wrench forces you to keep that hand relaxed.
So when you're going up against the actual opponent, how much are you focused on giving back pressure while you're going to the side?
Come up here.
Rise, bring the elbow forward.
I adjust what I'm doing depending on what they're doing. So if they're top rolling, I'm almost all back pressure because I'm going to roll out, right? But if they're going to hook, all right, and I know they're hooking, then, well, if they're going backwards at that point, I'm just going straight to the this peg. Because while he's dragging, all I want to do is get my wrist in. Let him go backwards. I'm going sideways. I want to get to my side of the table. Okay. Sarah exaggerates. She hooks and pulls back with the lat, and she's effective and she's a natural born killer. But if I knew somebody's going to do that to me, I would just do this. Well, so while she came forward and tried to pull back, I want to be here. Let her drag on the losing side of the table. You know what I mean? If they're going to press is usually tall people. If they're going to press, I think that's where I would do the rising. I would come up with my knuckles up, and I'd come up here to try to get them, because they're not going to press if our wrist bones are. The last place you want on a presser is for them to get a hold of that, because they'll almost win there. So the best, and if you get stuck in that, you got to somehow you want to loosen up your hand. You got to somehow get. You want this bone. You don't want to stop a presser with your muscle, with your soft tissues. You got to get that. You want them pushing along the length of that bone. See how, you know, that you don't want to fight a press that way. You want to get that arm wedged in here.
So just kind of force your shoulder, bully your shoulder back.
Yeah,
there.
get that forearm lined up with the direction they're pressing, and make them try to crush that.
Have you always had strong tendons since you were young? Have you ever had any tendon injuries?
I didn't start arm wrestling. No, I've never had any injury, but I didn't arm wrestle until I was 35, so I don't know.
What were you doing before that? Sports-wise?
Archery.
Archery?
Cutting weight.
How do you do it?
This is the last thing. There's basically two philosophies on cutting weight.
I mean, if you got 2 days to cut 20 pounds, you're good. 2 days and gain it in 4 hours, you're not good.
The two philosophies on cutting weight are, some very, very elite people will be 15 pounds over, walking around, and they will cut all that weight a week or so before the tournament, right? So if they're walking around at 175, they cut to 165 2 weeks before so they do the weight cut, the cardio and all that stuff 2 weeks before the tournament, and they go in at 165. To me, that's just a stupid way of cutting weight, because all that power you got by being 175, you gave up 2 weeks ago, Yeah. I'm a firm believer in dehydrating before it, but the ultimate goal would be to be 175, right? 24 hours before the weigh-ins. sauna down to the 165, get on that scale at 165, and then 12 hours later be 180 pounds and go into your 165 pound weight class weighing 180 just by putting gobs of water on your body. And you can put on a lot of water weight if you eat every hour, if you eat a lot of carbs, a lot of salts and electrolytes, creatine every hour, and glycerin. You go find some glycerin, you take that every hour, that's hygroscopic, it attracts water and it'll hold water in your body with the creatine. So it's very easy to add a few pounds. I would normally be 215, 10 days out. By the time I cut out the carbs and started pounding the water and stuff, I would go into the sauna a little over 210. I would cut down to the 195. And then that evening, I could be back to 217. Now, I couldn't hold 217. I would be in the tournament at about 212, 213 on a 195 class. But that dehydrating, that 24 hours to cut that weight, don't do it alone. Don't do it for the first time before an important tournament. It will screw with your mind. It will make you feel like shit. It'll make you question all kinds of stuff. It's very dangerous. My heart rate would go way, way up, and I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and then I'd be standing there waiting to weigh in, you know, and it's Vegas, it's hot as fuck. I'm just standing there. As soon as I got off the scale and took a little drink of water, boom, instant sweat. If you cut that weight, it's very, plan how you put the weight back on. The first couple of times, I came off the scale, started eating. Everything I ate or drank came right back out the basement. nothing stayed in. Okay. You have to learn to get something in your body that'll hold that water. So to me, it's goldfish crackers, something that doesn't have a lot of flavor to it. Get some goldfish crackers in there, start drinking. Then after about, what I would do is I wouldn't start eating any food until I put in all the water that I sauna'd out. And that's usually 16 to 18 pounds of water I took out of my body. So I wouldn't eat anything. I'd eat handfuls of goldfish crackers, but I wouldn't start eating real solid food until I'd fully drank 2 gallons of water. Warm water, cold water, once again, messes with you. So you just sit, you crawl back into a bathtub, and you just sit there and you start drinking water and Pedialyte until you got 2 gallons. Yeah. And then once that water's in, now you can go in every hour. Eat some carbs, a lot of salt. To me, it's like Panda Express. It would be like fried rice from Panda Express. It's black with soy sauce, followed by creatine and glycerin and water, and you can get that weight back on.
Are you starting a water load 10 days out?
5. Mine was 5. I just followed some powerlifting water load system, and the system I first started told you to cut the water like 12 to 24 hours before the sauna. I stopped that because then that's a whole day of I'm dehydrated, like I'm on a plane not drinking any water. What I do is I water load up until I walk into the sauna. So if I'm driving to a tournament, now I'm 15 pounds over, I'm still pounding water up until the time I get into the hotel, and then I'll drink a quart of water, then walk into the sauna, because that first 2 hours in the sauna, you lose like 7 pounds. The last 7 hours in the sauna, you lose 1. You know?
So you don't worry about a week or a multi-day like release. You're worried about the 12-day or the 12-hour release. Like,
yeah. It's a 10-day cycle for me to cut all the weight. The first 10 days out, I'm reducing carbs, I'm reducing salt, I stopped eating meat, I go on to all liquids for a while, you know, but it's hard to get all liquids with no salt. But then I'm drinking gallons of water up until I walk into the sauna.
Would you do the same thing for a same-day weigh-in?
Yeah, but I wouldn't cut as much. Travis's tournament's the same day weigh-in, but instead of cutting 16 pounds or so, I only cut like 8. Because it's same day weigh-in, but all tournaments start late, right? And my weight classes last, so I weighed in and I was able to go sit at a table and drink a gallon of distilled water, which is 8 pounds, and then start eating food before my first match. I didn't have the whole gallon of water drink yet, but by the 3rd or 4th round, I had easily put 10 pounds on. And, you know, I'm eating creatine and the glycerin right at the table. But weight cutting in the sauna is dangerous. Don't go into the sauna if your partner's going to go down to the bar and drink and hang out with people and leave you alone in there, okay? Make sure somebody is watching you, you know? 10 minutes in, 5 minutes out. 10 minutes in, 5 minutes out, you know? It's very dangerous. Come out in 5 minutes, put ice on your head, cool that body. You don't, no sense in being an invalid for a free t-shirt. Any other questions? That's basically all I got.
Very nice, man.
Y'all set, Artem?